Well, as everyone can see, we're pretty fired up here for the DraftKings Tour Junkies After Dark show, is what this is. Last week I struggled with the intro a little bit. I think I nailed it just then. Nailed it. Mm-hmm. This is my tequila glass. This is just straight tequila and ice.
Looks
Pat, you're
good. Looks
rosé.
Fantastic. I'm drinking rosé. I need to get on the tequila train, but I'm a little bit scared of what could happen. I mean, everything
you
could go.
Should be.
Everything could get derailed, and I mean, it gets derailed as it is. But I mean, they could even be worse. Like, there could be a lot that could happen.
Yeah, I don't actually think
DraftKings might put themselves at risk if I get on this.
Let's not.
Yeah,
Let's
they
not
could
do
get
that.
sued. Anyway,
this week is the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am, 2020 years after our Lord. We're here to break that down. There are 3 golf courses being played during this event. It is a 54-hole cut. That is 3 rounds. So everybody's going to be guaranteed 3 rounds. Then they are going to make the cut. And then on Sunday, the final round, you will also play Pebble Beach. So Pebble Beach being the course that everyone will play twice if they make the cut. But you got 2 other courses, Monterey Peninsula and Spyglass Hill. Pat, why don't you tell us about the 3 golf courses that we're looking at this week?
Yeah, so I'll be quick with this. First off, as you mentioned, there are 3 courses this week, and they are going to get to play all 3. So we have another cut after 54 holes. Top 60 in ties, by the way, something to pay attention to. This is
60 in ties. That is very good. 156 players. Top 60 in ties, not top 65 in ties.
Exactly, which is why I pointed that out.
Good for you.
This is a Pro-Am event, so you typically get slow play. That could be somewhat of a narrative. But
narrative.
I don't know. We'll see. But let's talk about Pebble Beach first, because that's the main course, and that's the course they're going to play on Sunday and at least one other day in the week as long as they make the cut. It is a par 72. It is playing at 6,800 yards, so very short, which tells you one thing. A lot of players can play this course well. You don't have to have length. It doesn't matter. You can scale it back off the tee. This is a second shot golf course, though. These greens are tiny. They are the smallest greens on tour. So you've got to be good as far as strokes gained approach. You got to be hitting it, you got to be ball striking your ball, doing well there, and hitting these greens and giving yourselves chances at birdies, because you do have to still score. Even though these greens are tiny, they can be a little bit tricky. They're going to be running kind of slow, 10.5 on the stimp. That's not that quick, and that's what we typically see when it comes to these Pro-Am events. They don't get it going that quick out here. And the par 5s are, again, you got to score. On all 3 of these courses, they're going to have 11 chances on these par 5s to score this week. You have got to take advantage, because almost all of them are reachable in 2 if you got any sort of length. So that's important. Spyglass Hill is a just over 7,000 yard par 72 Poana greens. By the way, every single course I'm talking about has Poana greens.
Pure California Poana.
Poana greens. Spyglass is sneaky difficult, though. I think it's probably the most difficult of the 3, and that's just my opinion. But you can still score on these par 5s as well. Monterey Peninsula playing just under 7,000 yards is a par 71. It's weird AF because it has the front 9 is a 34, and the back 9 is 37. So you got par 34. Yeah, it's weird. And you got 3
Not
par
a lot
5.
Of this.
No. I think it's only 1. 3 par 5s on the back 9 that are all gettable, and you got to be able to score on. So I think that's important. Monterey Peninsula is definitely the easiest of the 3 courses, and that's the one they're going to need to score on. So if you're playing those showdown slates and things like that, you might want to target those guys that are getting that Monterey Peninsula course on the particular day that you're playing the showdown. As far as weather's concerned, though, I think it's going to be pretty benign right now. I mean, it is, but might be a little chilly. Might be a little chilly. Might have to bring out the sweaters and the pullovers and the 3/4 zips and that kind of stuff. But as far as the wind's concerned, right now it doesn't look that bad. But this weather can change at any moment. What do they call that? The sea layer,
the marine layer.
The marine layer. Yeah, we heard that a lot at the U.S. Open last year. Anyway, so
Yeah.
they're all hey, beautiful courses at least this week. Even though you got 3 of them to look at, they're all pretty.
Yeah, they are.
By the way, water hazards are important to look at. And water hazards on Pebble Beach, they only list one, the Pacific Ocean.
Me running, that would suck.
So you just
That's
avoid
tough.
the Pacific Ocean.
Or by the time this podcast is over, the show is over, Pat will be saying the Pacific Ocean or something.
The Pacific Ocean. Avoid it.
Yeah, interesting golf courses this week on deck. It opens itself up, man. You got some long shots that can play well here. Like you said, anybody can kind of compete here. It'll be interesting to see. Definitely want to check that weather before lineup lock on Thursday morning. In the event we see things change, which we have seen in years past. We have seen the weather switch, and you think it's going to be nice, and the next thing you know, it's blowing, and it's a crap show. So you need to check that out. That's very important for Pebble Beach. You want to make sure you do that. And just know that if you're playing showdowns or you're betting on first-round leaders for whatever reason, Monterey Peninsula, pretty hands down the easier course of the 3. As Pat mentioned, Spyglass and Pebble tend to be neck and neck in terms of difficulty. But you definitely want Monterey Peninsula in a showdown. Pat, let's I mean, from a strategy standpoint, just general strategy plan this week, it definitely lends itself to a studs and duds approach. You stack some big names up top. You drop down to that lower 7K, 6K range even. Getting 6 of 6 through the cut is always an advantage, but this week, with only one round being played after the cut, you're obviously not at the same advantage that you are on a 36-hole cut. Plus, as of now, which is Monday night, the weather on Sunday looks to be a little rough. It looks a little more windy, a little more blustery. And, there might not be a whole lot of DraftKings points to go around come Sunday. That could change. But, you definitely have to think through the lineup construction here. You can also make an argument that playing more of your mid-tier guys is a contrarian approach if you want to try that. Personally, though, I'm good with the studs and duds. And even if everybody else is like, oh, everybody's doing studs and duds, you can still do that and still be contrarian with your picks. You don't have to just say, oh, well, if everybody's talking up studs and duds and I need to be balanced to be contrarian. Yes, you can be balanced by being contrarian, but you don't have to. I like some of the bigger names at the top. We talked about them, but one name that I like at the top that you're not willing to pay up for, that I do think we have some disagreement on, is Brandt Snedeker, former 2-time winner at this event. Brandt Snedeker arrives in good form, is on record how much he loves this golf course, loves the Pro-Am, has mentioned he plays with kind of the same group of people every year, enjoys hanging out with them, loves Poa annua greens, which very few people love Poa annua greens. Brandt Snedeker is one of them. I don't understand how you when you say fade, Pat, do you mean a full out fade, or are you just talking like, let's say Brandt comes in at 18% projected tournament ownership? Are you going to have him at like what, 10%? Are you not going to have him at all? What's the deal with Brandt Snedeker?
If I'm looking at Brandt Snedeker and I'm seeing him at maybe, I don't know, under 10% owned or something like that, yeah, I may look at playing him. But I think if he's sitting there in like 20%, somewhere around there, I want to fade him. I mean, when I look at a fade, to me, it is making a call on a guy that's going to be high owned that I think is going to fail. It's like the chalk bomb that we send the email out every week. I mean, that to me is a bold fade or whatever else. I mean, look, you can fade anybody that you want to. It doesn't matter. Like, my fade actually in this range was Kuchar, and you didn't like that. But I just not a huge fan of Kuchar at that price at $9,900. And Sneds, it's a pricing for me. I don't like 10-1. The stats, I don't know. I mean, he's okay. Strokes gained approach and around the green, he's fine. But he's 103rd in the field in par 5 scoring, which I think is going to be key this week. He's 70th in the field over the last 24 rounds in ball striking. I know he's got great course history here, but I just don't know if I want to pay up 10-1 for Sneds. And look, I know he's got great course history. I know that. And I'm a big course history fan, but I'm not a fan of that price for him this week, and I think he's going to be a little bit over-owned. I think he's going to be in that somewhere close to that maybe 20% range, and I don't want to play him in that range. I guess
it's not just the course history though. Like it's the form too. I mean, and yeah, you can say, okay, well, he missed the cut at the Waste Management last week. All right, well, he also lost strokes putting at the Waste Management, which, since last year, I mean, he lost strokes putting at the Tour Championship before that. He doesn't typically lose strokes putting, and now he arrives. The Waste Management last week was Bermuda. Now he arrives at his favorite putting surface, POA, where he's done really well. But before the Waste Management, a 3rd at the Farmers, 12th at the Sony. Played really well in the playoffs last year. The Northern Trust, the BMW, both 5th and 6th place finishes. Brandt's playing really well. He arrives at a course that he loves. And 10-1, I get it. It's 5 digits, but it's not 10-9. Like, you could make a case for pricing Brandt Snedeker at this event equivalent to Patrick Cantlay at 10-9. Like, you could make that case. Being the course horse, given the form, you could make that case. So I don't think it's actually as bad a price as you think. If he were 9,900, if he were where Kuchar is, would you be satisfied playing with him because now he's 4 digits and it just doesn't look as bad? But like 10-1 is not that much.
That doesn't really matter to me. But yeah, I see what you're saying. But
I'm willing to pay for Sneds in tournaments. Obviously, I do think he's going to be chalky. This is not a player that I'm looking to differentiate myself with in lineups. I'll likely do that in the 7 and 6K range, but I love him in tournaments and I love him in cash. I'm all in on Snedeker. Now I have another player down in the 7K range I want to talk to you about, but do you have any other players? We always like to start off with some disagreement, talk through some guys that we didn't like on the podcast that we just got done recording. Any other guys before I dip down to that 7K guy I'm not a fan of?
No, I mean, the only thing I'll talk about is a guy that I think that I was surprised that we both liked, and that was Jason Day at 10-3. Now, look, he has a great course history here. You
Incredible.
Look at his last...
the best.
I mean, he's top 5'd it in 4 of his last 5 times playing here with a T11 in 2016, which was his worst finish. But Jason Day's been sort of one of those guys that's just been polarizing where you never know what he's going to do and whether or not he's, got some sort of condition or whatever it is. But I was surprised that you and I were both on him this week. And I like that because I'm a big fan of Jason Day this week. I think he's going to be lower owned than he probably should be. People might be more on Sneds, like you said, or Paul Casey just above him. So I think Jason Day, I mean, like we want to talk, like I know everybody wants us to be in disagreement and everything on the show, but I'd like to actually point out when we talk about a guy on the show that we both agree on, and that's Jason Day, and I love him this week. I think he's a great play. I think he's going to be lower owned than he should be, and I'm fine with that. So I don't know what your thoughts are on Day, but I know everybody loves to hear us argue. But he is a guy that we actually both were on, and we don't talk about our picks before the show. So,
well, you talked about how small these greens are. You think about how important it is to get up and down here when you miss these greens. And Day is one of the best in the world at that, along with Snedeker. So I just think the ball striking here can be a little squirrely, which it tends to be with Jason Day lately. It's a Pro-Am. The rough's not bad. The rough's not up. It's not that awful. As long as he misses the Pacific Ocean and hits some grass, he'll be okay. And he can get up and down. So the scoring potential there, the upside with Jason Day, I like. There is not a player in this field who's gained more strokes at Pebble Beach in the last 5 years than Jason Day, including Dustin Johnson. So I think the value is there. I think we're good. As long as he doesn't, catch a migraine or a sinus infection, we should be all square. Dropping down to $7,400, the last player that I really felt like on the pod, I actually wrote him down as a fade on the podcast. Before I mentioned that, you mentioned him as a tournament play. You're turning the visor around backwards. Now I know it's about to get lit. Patrick Rogers at $7,400. Here's what I think about Patrick Rogers. Patrick Rogers hits the ball a long way. His greatest asset is typically his driver, which I think will be less of an advantage here. It will be taken out of his hand a little bit here. Now, yes, he might hit driver on the par fives, okay? And you mentioned par five scoring is important. I get that. All in all, I think this course takes out the biggest advantage. Historically, when you look at him here, ball striking from tee to green, not great at Pebble Beach. Greens in regulation at Monterey Peninsula, Spyglass Hill, also not great here. I don't love the Patrick Rogers love. I get, coming off a 16th at Waste Management, coming off a 9th at the Farmers, but those are places where I think he can use his driver more so than he can use here. I mean, and it's proof, like at the Waste Management last week, he gained 6 strokes off the tee. 6! That's insane. The last time he gained 6 strokes off the tee was never. Literally never. I'm looking right now. I'm looking right now. I'm still scrolling. Never. Yes, it is. I'm looking. I'm down to 2015. I have not found, I went all the way down to 2012. There is not a PGA Tour event with strokes gained data measured since 2012 that he has gained more than 4.8 strokes off the tee. He gained 6 last week at the Waste Management.
Well,
that's not repeatable. It's not repeatable.
It's certainly not repeatable. Neither is any stat that you could talk to about any player that you want to even throw out that for anybody.
The Waste Management is a bomber's paradise. That is a perfect spot for Patrick Reed to open it up.
You could throw out any stat and go back on, and nobody's repeating it exactly. Hell, Webb Simpson, one of the greatest ball strikers on tour, is probably not going to.
Your hair right now is so funny looking right now.
But either way, I just like how Patrick Rogers is playing, and sometimes that's just what you do when you're looking at players. He's at $7,400. He's playing fantastic. He was T6, like you said, T16 last week, top 10 in the Farmers in a great field. I mean, I like Patrick Rogers, and he finished top 10 here 2 years ago when he was in good form, like he's in right now. And so I don't care what if he's a bomber or whatever he is. You see a lot of different players play well in this course. We've seen DJ light up this week. We've seen guys like Vaughn Taylor win, and Ted Potter and whoever else. So almost any kind of player can win. It doesn't matter if they're a bomber or not. So, I mean, I just think that Patrick Rogers, and here's another thing. By the way, great putter on Poana. It's probably one of his best surfaces. I think he's top 35 on tour when you look at the last 100 rounds. So Poana greens, he putts well on. I mean, so I think that, he's definitely going to, the par fives, I mean, you kind of just brush by those. But when you get 11 shots at these par fives, and he is top 20 in the field in par five scoring, that gives you a leg up on the game. Like you're already ahead of a lot of the players in the field if you're scoring on those par fives, which he does.
Just to clarify, 11 shots on the par 5, meaning you are going to play 11 par 5s in the first 3 rounds. That's
what I mean. You're playing 11. Yeah. That's what I mean. You're playing 11 par 5s. Because,
I get that.
So I just think that with the way he's played recently, it's a guy that, look, I loved him 2 years ago, and he sucked. But his game is back now. I just think that Patrick Rogers is a good play at 7,400. He's going to be low owned too. Nobody's going to want to play him.
Yeah, he is. He's going to be low owned. He'll be like sub 5% at the most. I get it. Yeah. Okay. All right, let's talk through some DK Sportsbook plays and get out of here. I've got a number of outright winners. I've also got a handful of top 5 bets here. I like the top 5 bets this week because, as we mentioned, long shots can do well here. I mean, freaking Ted Potter won here 2 years ago. Von Taylor won here in 2016. Like, you can have some guys that get on the right rotation, they get hot. Top 5 bets I'm a little interested in here on DraftKings Sportsbook. But let's start with you. Who's on the DK Sportsbook card for this week?
All right. Well, I'm not gonna start on the shorter end because I just don't want to hear it from you. So I will start with Adam Hadwin at 55-1. I like that.
Love it.
I think that's a great play. Nick Taylor at 85-1, I think is a decent play. I actually kind of started to look at him a little bit from a DraftKings standpoint, but I think that's interesting. A guy I mentioned on the podcast that I like this week, and I liked him last week, is Sung Kang at 95-1. Also like Tyler McCumber at 250-1. I think that's a good play this week.
Agreement with Tyler McCumber.
Tyler McCumber, I think, is a great play at 250-1. And then I'm going to go back down, drop down a little bit. At 90-1, Harry Higgs at 90-1. One of my favorite players on tour now. I like him, but that's it for me. I didn't have any top 10 or top 5 bets, so I'll let you take over on this.
A lot of agreement there. I had the Hadwin and the Sung Kang and the Tyler McCumber bet kind of queued up looking at those. Love the Hadwin and McCumber bet. All right, so I'll add to it a couple guys outright at 125-1. Nick Watney, West Coast guy, great record at Pebble Beach, proven PGA Tour winner. Like Watney at 125. Cameron Tringali, putts best on POA. Did not make the cut last week at the Waste Management on Bermuda, but still striking the ball well. Irons are solid. Good iron player, 125-1 like him. And then a few more top 5 bets. I think Tyler McCumber top 5 is a really interesting number. He's at 40-1 as a top 5 bet. Sebastian Kaplan, we've had on the podcast before, loves birdie fests, loves events where he can be aggressive. He can go flag hunting. Bomber, can score on par 5s, in really good form right now. Putts best on POA. Missed the cut last week of the Waste Management on Bermuda, but still struck the ball well tee to green. He's at 40-1 as a top 5. Doc Redman, in good form, young guy, hits it a long way, similar to Sebastian Kaplan. He's at 45-1 as a top 5. And then finally, I talked about him on the podcast. It's really tough to avoid because he has freaking won the Players' Championship. Siwoo Kim, top 5 bet at 66-1. He finished 4th here last year after missing the cut at the Waste Management the week before. He sucked last week. He sucked the week before that. He sucked the week before that. But Siwoo Kim is one of those guys who will just pop up and show out on a week. At 66-1 just for a top 5 is very intriguing for Siwoo Kim. That's it. Boom.
If Siwoo Kim finishes top 5, I will do the next DraftKings show with my shirt off.
Oh my God. Please, if there is a Lord, let Siwoo finish 5th. Right at the number. That would be amazing. I'll do it with my shirt off. Can't wait. Love it. Thank you. Added to favorites. Siwoo Kim automatically added to everyone's favorites on the PGA Tour app.
I don't know if anybody wants to see that, but I'll do it.
No, I would
anyway.
love to see that. Thanks for watching TJ After Dark. Be sure and check out the podcast if you haven't already. We're also up on YouTube. Follow us on the YouTube channel, Tour Junkies. Thanks. May your screens be green over on DraftKings for the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. See ya.
Out.